All right, let's talk about Tom Brady. So I wanted to do, I have been doing some of these like every playoff game tier list of certain people, and I don't know, maybe if I have some time, I'll do that for Brady. But the reality is, the guy has quite a number of playoff games under his belt. Actually, 48 playoff games total. So that would be a bit of a long tier list, and I figured, well, he's played in a lot of Super Bowls. In fact, he's played in 10 Super Bowls. So there's, that's plenty to make a tier list on. Why not just do that? So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to go in chronological order here. Also, should just give a quick plug. I have a movie channel. If you like movies, want to hear my thoughts on them, I make some movie reviews. I do some tier lists similar to this on that channel as well. So check that out if you're interested. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the Tom Brady Super Bowl tier list. Again, I'm talking about his performance in these games. That's what I am ranking here. So from one of his best, still really good, met expectations, underwhelming, and then finally one to forget. Starting off with the first Super Bowl against the Rams. I think that it's one of those things where you look at the box score stats of some of these games and you're like, well, that wasn't very good at all. I mean, he had 141 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. That feels like a disaster, but you have to keep in mind eras, and that wasn't really that bad of a box score performance in 2001 at all. I still don't think so. I have gone back and watched a decent number of these games. I was born in '95, so I don't have a great memory of 2001. But I went through a stretch where I was rewatching a lot of the classic Super Bowls and stuff. So I have seen all of these games. Relatively, within the past 10 years, I've seen all of these games, and I did think that Brady actually played all right in this one. There, wasn't a lot open, but he did do a pretty good job of being that game manager at this point. This is one he was considered a game manager, and of course, he was perfect in that final drive, which is kind of something he's become known for. So, while I don't think that maybe this is going to be a hot take, I don't know. I think I actually might put this in still really good. I know the box score stats aren't great, but you can't, if any argument is using box score stats about 2001 in a negative way, I'm just not going to take it seriously because there's so much more that goes into this than just it's a different era, and box score stats in general don't always tell the story. So because of that, I think it was really good. You could talk me into met expectations, but I thought it was, again, that final drive was great. Perfect in that final drive, and I still thought he did some nice things prior to that. You didn't have the Panthers going up against the Patriots, who it was a weird game where it actually started off pretty low scoring, and then all of a sudden, just there was nonstop scoring for the entire final 45 minutes of game time in this one, where I think you could argue this was one of Brady's best, and I think I will argue that. I mean, he was fantastic here. This was still just his third year as a starter, and this was, I thought, through the most part, up until this point for Brady. They won the Super Bowl year one, but it was a good defense. Brady was playing well and, had some big moments in big spots. The second year, they missed the playoffs. The third year, it still felt like they were winning with defense. They were winning with, him just not screwing up. This, to me, felt like the first time in a big way they won because of Brady. And I think this was kind of Brady's not just a passenger here. Brady is a major contributor in this postseason run. That's just kind of how I view that game. Again, I haven't watched every game from 2003, but I have watched every playoff game that he played in 2003. He was very good in this one. So then we go to 2004. So the next year where they would win 3 out of 4 against the Philadelphia Eagles. This was the infamous not great clock management stuff from Andy Reid. In this one, this was also a game or a year where he had really good games. I mean, I said box score stats aren't a great indicator, and they're not. But if you want to just talk about them, he had a passer rating of 130 in the conference championship game against Pittsburgh and 110 in this one against the Eagles. And I do think that the tape matched that box score stats. I think he was really good. I think I'm also going to put this in one of his best. I mean, this was a really dominant performance for 2004 4, what he was able to do was fantastic. And I think because of that, that's where I'm going to put it. So, okay, great. On top of the world, 3 Super Bowls, and he's played well in all of them, even if maybe the numbers won't look as impressive as we get further away. That's fantastic. And then, 2005 comes around. They lose to the Broncos in the conference championship game. Okay, well, that wasn't great, but it's a conference championship game. Then 2006 goes around, and then they're looking to beat the Colts, and they blow a big lead against the Colts. Brady was, if that was on this list, that would be one to forget, because Brady threw an interception at the end there to cost them the game. So that wasn't great, but, and they definitely would have beaten the Bears in the Super Bowl. But okay, 2007, they get Randy Moss. They go undefeated in the regular season. They, play the Jacksonville Jaguars, crushed them, no problem. He actually Brady threw 3 interceptions against the San Diego Chargers the next week, but they still got by because, again, this is a loaded team to then play the scrappy Cinderella story New York Giants, led by Peyton Manning's little brother. That's what he was called in 2007. He wasn't Eli Manning. He was Peyton Manning's little brother. I mean, we all know how this is going to go, right? I really don't see how you could put this in anything other than one to forget. And, listen, I'm not saying he was awful the entire game. He didn't have a nice drive to give the Patriots the lead late in the fourth quarter before Manning had his own nice drive to give the Giants the lead. But I really thought that he played poor in this one. There is kind of this narrative of there's nothing that Brady could do in this spot. That's something I hear a lot of. There was no way Brady was going to be able to win. I mean, there's pressure constantly. What was actually happening was the Giants were blitzing a lot in this game. That's one of those weird Mandela effects that people think that the Giants didn't blitz much. They blitzed way above league average in this game and consistently got pressure with that. And Brady was struggling to pick up the blitzes. He's gotten so much better at that over the course of his career, but really struggled and was a big reason why they lost and didn't go undefeated, which is, I have to imagine, if Brady could flip one game in his career, he wouldn't even hesitate. This is the one he would flip. After that loss, the Patriots really took a minute to get back on track. I mean, so, they end up the next year, they really don't have a great year. They get knocked out in the first round against the Baltimore Ravens and really kind of got crushed in that game. The following year, they were looking good. I believe they were the 1 seed or the 2 seed again. The Jets went into Foxborough and won. That was the can't wait game. So it was like, what is happening with the Patriots? The following year, and really the defenses were not great. This was the era where the Patriots defenses were just not up to task. The offenses were really good. So because of that, they were still able to be successful. And in 2021, Brady really had kind of a banner year. He was really good offensively, and even in the playoffs had a really good game against the Denver Broncos, where he threw for 6 touchdowns in that game. Really, the offense had no issues against the Denver Broncos to start the 2011 playoffs, although Brady had some real struggles against the Ravens the following week, but with a Billy Cunliffe missed field goal, they were able to hang on and win that game, which got them back to the Super Bowl against the Giants. And I'm sure Patriots fans were saying, we can't lose to these guys again, can we? Well, I mean, it did not go particularly well here as well, which is especially disappointing because the Giants' defense wasn't great this year. People always view the Giants as oh yeah, they won 2 Super Bowls with their defense. No, they won the first Super Bowl with their defense. The second year, that's Eli Manning's best year. Eli Manning deserves a lot of credit for what he did in this playoff run and this entire season. I think people act like both years were 2007. There was stuff to be had that the Patriots offense could not get in this game. It wasn't quite as bad as the first one, but this was still a very underwhelming performance from Brady, and one that felt like it mattered a ton. So you have multiple underwhelming Super Bowls at this point. And still, again, they lose to the Ravens in the conference championship game the next year. The Ravens go on to win the Super Bowl. They then lose to the Peyton Manning Denver Broncos. The Broncos, of course, then get crushed by the Seattle Seahawks. And then the Patriots feel a little bit better about themselves when they're finally able to get back to the Super Bowl once again. This was the Deflategate game when they destroyed the Colts by 45-7, but their balls were a little inflated. So, who knows who would have won had the ball been fully inflated. They played a Legion of Boom coming off of a dominant performance in the previous Super Bowl. And imagine if they could beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady back-to-back in the Super Bowl. People thought that a dynasty was about to form with the Seattle team. Although, in fairness, dynasties tend to not form around defenses anymore. You kind of need a quarterback to really create a dynasty. And, Russell Wilson could have maybe been that guy. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. You have Tom Brady going to the Super Bowl against Seattle. They're down 10 points. And, I remember Kyle on the podcast said, you can make the argument this was a better comeback than the 28-3 in terms of Brady, in terms of what he brought to the table. He wasn't perfect in this game, but he was perfect in that, that final stretch. I think I'm going to put this in one of his best, just because of how good he played in that fourth quarter. Sure, there was the Malcolm Butler interception. That's what everyone remembers. But Brady was awesome in that. If you look at his in the fourth quarter, he was perfect. And speaking of making things happen later on, so okay, Brady gets his fourth. He kind of established himself as not just a Hall of Fame quarterback now, but one of the top guys. They did lose the following year to Denver in 2015. That is what Denver got. Peyton Manning got his last Super Bowl ring. But then you have the Patriots against the Atlanta Falcons, who were just crushing it. Both of these teams were crushing everybody on their way to the Super Bowl. This was not. It's actually pretty boring playoffs so far, and it looked like the Falcons were on their way to crushing the Patriots when we all know what happened. I didn't think Brady played that poorly in the first half. Obviously, the pick six was bad. Other than that, I thought he played really fine, not great, but okay. And then again in the fourth quarter, he was perfect. There was no mistakes whatsoever there. I think the reason why they got down was more his fault in this one than it was against the Seattle. So I'm gonna still put it in still really good. I mean, he threw a pick six. I can't put it in one of his best, but he was still really good, and I think that he deserves deserves credit. Of course, he deserves credit. He's Tom Brady. He got credit. He got the credit he deserved, and at that point, fifth Super Bowl ring. Pretty much everyone was saying he's the best quarterback in football. There were some detractors. It wasn't unanimously agreed upon, but that's kind of when the GOAT was really starting to form. So, okay, goes there, then goes back to the Super Bowl the next season against the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's okay, again, consistently doing this at this point. It was, there was that rough stretch, but now it's just every year they're going to the Super Bowl. Once again, once again, Brady was just dominant in the playoffs. He got through the Titans pretty easily. The Jaguars, that defense, that game actually was pretty close. Shaq wasn't down. Maybe the Jaguars should have won, but didn't happen. Patriots go against the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, Brady known for throwing for 500 yards in this game and still losing. I have to say, this is going to be a scorching hot take, but I'm going to put him in the Met expectations tier for this. I did not think this was his best game. I know he had 500 yards, but as I keep saying, box score stats don't tell the whole story. Guys were getting... Met expectations is too hot. I'm going to put it in still really good, okay? That's where I'm going to put it. I was getting a bit too hot takey, I think. But I don't think this is one of his best, because I do think there were still some errors. Yes, there were opportunities to get more yards. If you go back and watch this game, it wasn't just because of him. Now, again, throwing to open guys you deserve some credit for. He was doing some stuff to help those guys get open, all of that. He did fumble at the end there, right? There were some errors in this game. I just can't quite put him in one of his best. I just can't. And then they played the Rams in the Super Bowl once again, and this felt like the perfect kind of bookend to his career, even though he would go on to play a little bit more. It felt like, okay, this could be the perfect send-off, similar to how when Manning had a bad year and he won a Super Bowl, you could have the send-off, because Brady actually had some real moments in this playoff run that people kind of don't talk about. He was actually great against the Chargers in the divisional round. No one really kind of talks about that. And I mean, the numbers weren't great against the Chiefs, but he was really good against the Chiefs. He made some real plays to get them over, allow them to beat Patrick Mahomes in overtime. This wasn't his best game. It just wasn't. The Rams defense played very well, and it wasn't all his fault, but wasn't able to get a ton done. But at the same time, he still did, again, make the throws he had to make. That throw to Gronkowski later on was still very good. I'm going to put it in underwhelming. It wasn't a spectacular game from him, but it wasn't a disaster. And then we have finally, last and certainly not least in my heart as a Tampa Bay fan, the Tampa Bay Super Bowl. Again, this whole journey was weird, right? Where like goes to Tennessee. I keep saying goes to Tennessee even when there's home games. It plays Tennessee at home. Titans, Derrick Henry runs all over the Patriots. Tom Brady's last throw as a Patriot is a pick six. Because of that, the Patriots end up losing. They do not have Tom Brady anymore. Brady goes to Tampa Bay. Many people thought it's just going to be Jordan with the Wizards. And, it was an up and down season, but Brady was legitimately great in this postseason run. Against Washington, he was like the dominant force. He played a really kind of mature, more methodical game against the Saints. And against Green Bay, he also made some incredible throws like that Hail Mary to Scotty Miller. People bring up the 3 straight interceptions, but 2 of those were just arm punts. So he was really good leading up to this. And I actually think you could argue, and I think I am going to make this argument, I think he played his best Super Bowl in this run. I'm going to put it as the top slot on to one of his best. Not that the slots matter, but for this one, I am going to put it there. I think what gets overlooked is, how dominant the Buccaneers defense was against that Chiefs offense. Like, people kind of forget how great Brady was in this game. I mean, he was making every throw. There were some tough throws he had to make, and he was making them consistently. Brady was fantastic and probably at his best. So, yeah, looking back on this tier list, I put one of his best in 4 games in one of his best, and I even briefly considered another one, and I'm not including a game where he threw for 500 yards in one of his best. Despite the fact that many would. He hasn't been perfect in every Super Bowl, but he's been pretty close. So, yeah, kind of a fun list and a fun way to kind of go through Brady's career. I thought this was a video I enjoyed making. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.